Welcome back to the Broady Windsor Group podcast, where we delve beyond the transaction to discuss the issues that shape our communities. Today, we're sitting down with Beaconsfield resident Frank Merhar, who's running for mayor of Beaconsfield in the upcoming municipal election on Sunday, November 2nd. In this conversation, we'll explore Frank's vision for Beaconsfield's future, how he sees development, transparency, communication, and fiscal responsibility evolving in our city, and what kind of leadership he believes Beaconsfield needs next. Whether you're a lifelong resident or a new homeowner, we hope this episode helps you make a more informed decision when you head to the polls. Thanks for pressing play. You're listening to the Broady Windsor Group on Real Estate, the podcast for homeowners seeking guidance and support on everything related to owning a home. This includes much more than just buying or selling. We've got you covered for everything from mortgages and financing to home maintenance tips, renovation and design advice, and of course, the latest insights and analysis on what's happening in our local communities. Welcome, Frank. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here.
Glad to be here.
Now, I want to start things off by getting a little bit of a story from you, because I noticed a post on your Facebook page when I first found out you were running for mayor. So I want you to tell us and our listeners a little bit about the four-leaf clover story.
Long story short, it's an inherited gift I received from my mother about finding four-leaf clovers. And, it takes 3 seconds. You look, you see a patch, you reach down, and hopefully you can come up with gold. And this year I fell a little short in my annual goal of at least 2 or 3. And on the day of authorization with Elections Quebec was the first day that I found one in 2025. And whether you believe in signs or not, my mother, who passed away in 2018, I think was kind of
Giving you a nudge.
Giving me the nudge, exactly. So I'll take it for what it's worth. And but it felt right, felt good, and it gave me a little boost in my confidence.
Cool. Well, I know I see you all the time. My wife and I pass you on our walks all the time. You're very well known in the community. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and how long you've been in Beaconsfield, and more importantly, what prompted you to jump into municipal politics?
Well, as long as we're not talking about my schedule for walking, which is pretty active, it's with just like you guys.
Absolutely.
I first came to Beaconsfield in 1981 with my mother's second marriage. I had been maybe in the West Island twice prior to that, having grown up in NDG. It was a beautiful place and it was stunning, but I was a teenager and all my friends were still downtown, and my school was downtown, and I was that generation of kids that had to take the train in. And but as time went on, the love I had for the West Island in general, and then specifically for Beaconsfield, just grew exponentially. And through work and life, I lived in various other places in Montreal, in Old Montreal and Westmount, and little stages of my life, but I always found my way back to Beaconsfield. And through my work and travel and being away, I at somewhere around the turn of the century millennium, the Y2K thing.
Yeah.
We found a house that was right between my wife's parents and my parents, who were back from Ontario on Woodland. So it was 3 blocks in either direction, and we were able to make the best of it, enjoy those Sundays with family and friends, and really reap the benefits of this community.
Yeah, there's a inside joke, I guess, in the West Island. It's always 2 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah.
You can't go very far without knowing somebody who knows somebody.
The irony is, when I moved out of my parents' house quite young, I was a little precocious kid. I was adventurous. I was into, all sorts of endurance sports and things that my parents necessarily couldn't understand at the time. I swore that I would never come back. And when I did, I came back within 1,500 meters of the house that I left in.
Oh, it's like Bruce Springsteen.
Is it? Is that your story?
He talks about that. He's born to run, and he gets out. He couldn't wait to get out of his hometown, and now he lives 10 minutes away from his hometown.
Exactly.
Where he grew up.
So I love that. It was Laurier. Back then it was known as Laurier Court. I walk it every day. I do laps on it every single day. It's exactly 43 years later, and I'm still on that street getting my exercise in, and it's quiet. I know all the people. I know some of the people that haven't moved since then.
Yep.
And so to see them and to experience that, there's nothing like it,
So now let's get into the race for mayor. There's going to be a new mayor in Beaconsfield. We know that. George is retiring after a pretty good run.
Yep, 12 years.
12 years,
Yeah.
exactly. What's your take on how Beaconsfield is set up for the future? Because this is what we want to talk about is we can't change the past. We can affect today and what we do today and how it will impact tomorrow. What's your vision for the future, Beaconsfield?
Growth, commercial growth. I mean, everybody talks about it in the terms of densification, which is the official word that is used. It is part of the agglomeration process that we had to increase our volume, not only of the space used, but the amount of people using it and living it and residing here. This is a necessary, to the old timers like you and your family and myself in many parts. It could be a bit of a curse because we like our 20,000-ish people in our city, but the truth is we need to grow. We need to be able to provide services and product and services locally. We need to be able to have infrastructure that supports it. We don't have either. We have very small business footprint. We don't have any industrial land. We don't have what Beaurepaire has or what Point Claire has, so they're a very small community to the west of us, but they have a large industrial
Tax base.
tax base on the north side of the tracks. Point Claire is huge, right? It's over 300,000 residents, huge square footage, part of the airport, and two major throughways, two major highways. So it's hard to compete or to compare. I don't think it's beneficial to do either, but we can use certain aspects of either to benefit what we have here. And, we're sitting in this beautiful village that I've seen, and you've probably seen too. I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember when there was a Dominion where the Jean Coutu was, and there was like a small grocery store, and there was this growth, and across the street where what used to be the Black Line and now Cocoa and Bean and the medical building I mean, that was a butcher.
Yep.
Before.
Yep. Used to have a butcher shop. Used to have
every local service was available within our reach. And, ideally, for me, I love the idea of Point Claire's village's growth. Their association is fantastic. They've set rules, they've set standards, but they've enabled and helped people to create wonderful mom and pop businesses. We haven't gotten that support from our, over these, and not to diss on the last administration or George's 12 years. It's just that they were maintaining what was happening in our city. The growth was stagnant. And when someone wanted to open up a business here, it was met with a lot of difficulty, and there was no incentive for them to do it. And they found themselves going to other locations that were of benefit to the people of those municipalities.
Yeah, I know in my my dealings with Les Amis de Beaurepaire and Brian Miller and Dominic Godin that have spearheaded that community organization, which is amazing. I think that has just flourished in terms of the market that we have now in
on Friday,
the marché in Friday afternoons, the Christmas market that they put on. And I know they did a great initiative in, having a sort of polling the residents saying, what would you like to see for the village? What needs do you have that are not there right now, so that we can attract the right types of businesses, right?
Yeah, they've done a wonderful job in creating within a set, 2 posts, and the limitations of the posts that were available to them. But we need to increase that. We need to go beyond that. We need
widen the posts, so to speak.
Yes, the CFL is lowering the yardage. We should be increasing it. It's a good way of putting it. But we had in that in that market, we only have one business out of Beaconsfield that tends to be there. And um, there should be ways, we should have more restaurants. We should have different businesses that have a product that could be sold there, and or in general within our village. We have now a lot of real estate. You know, this is more your game than mine, but we don't enable the people that have the will, the skill, and the time to come in and build it. And
So what barriers do you see right now that are in place that need to be removed?
permits, and then the urban planning issues that have gone into some of the businesses that wanted to either expand or come here or grow. And oh, well, I guess expand and grow, you know, so to come here. Um, you know, obviously we need a set of rules. It's not a free for all. We can't just let people do whatever they want. Uh, but it shouldn't be uh, a place that when they follow the rules that we've set out and they've met that criteria, that we then throw another set of metrics at them that make it impossible to follow through and do what they want to do, or to create what they want to create. And I think that's really important. I think we need to stand behind it, just a good set of guidelines or pillars or posts, and do it in a way that's very exciting for them to come here. You know, I know one restaurateur that used to live in Beaconsfield, tried living in Dorval, now is back in Dorval because he was kind of priced out of the market. But the second he saw my poster on the wall, he's like, you know, and he owns 7 restaurants in the core. And he says, if you become mayor, I'm planning on moving 1 or 2 restaurants or opening up franchises of the restaurants, which I had to say, that's great, but can you not make it a franchise?
Right.
Because we don't want to do that. Do something different, or do the same, but give it a different name. Do what you need to do. And we'd be happy to help you not only find the space, but to deal with the permitting from the city level. Obviously, they have to deal with the restaurant permit and the alcohol permit if that is so involved. Um, you know, one of the ideas I think he has as no alcohol, so it makes it even easier. But it's a wonderful mom and pop family that these new generation of homeowners, these first time homeowners and young families that are getting in their car to drive to Point Claire or to St. Anne's or north to a family oriented restaurant could very easily just walk from home. You know,
So you mentioned Beaurepaire Village as being one example. Any other areas in Beaconsfield? Because again, limited space and territory. Where are other opportunities?
well, we
for
have
this?
the Elm Plaza. It's half empty. That needs to be. I don't like to use the word study. It needs to looked at. You know, I try and use as direct an approach in the words I choose, because a study to me means I need to buy time, right? I need delays. I want to look at it. It's fodder for the, you know, to gain votes. But the research is important. We can't just do anything and knock down or build up or, you know, take air rights and kind of sell them off. And uh, those are wonderful tools for these developers, but we could definitely do better with that space. We can do better in the mall, which has been the focus of the last administration. He wanted all the businesses to be in one centralized area, and that doesn't necessarily bode well to the families that are living in this area or the families on the Sherwood side. So
So what you're saying is diversify, not the businesses should be different neighborhoods should have access to different businesses.
every corner of Beaconsfield is within approximately 2.5 kilometers of each other. It's not even if you do have to drive, you know, to go to a, you know, a brunch. Let's say there was a brunch place over there, and I don't want to just be hyper focused on restaurants, but you know, as an example, it's the proximity is well within our it's in our backyard would be a better way of saying it. And but
It was my understanding too that the Elm Plaza project, for example, that was sold to a promoter developer, and then it got to the point where when the city zoning and was coming for permits, then it had to go to a public referendum.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that the residents around there
Quashed it.
quashed it and said, well, no, this is going to cause too much traffic headaches. I don't want this in my backyard. What's your take on how that process unfolded, and was there a different approach that could have been taken there?
That's exactly right. I do believe a different approach, a softer approach, a kinder approach. Listen, I think we all voted for George out of one of his 3 elections, right? I have no ill will. He was a good a manager of our finances, but we didn't grow. And a lot of the growth that could have happened was met with either a misunderstanding of the potential or an unwillingness to grow. Whether, I'll tell you an anecdote about the speed bumps in George later, but the I think if it would have been handled in a different approach, and shown the opportunity, because those same people want growth. They just want it to be clear and concise and explained to them. And what a wonderful thing to have facilities in your backyard without, obviously you don't want to have balconies staring into into your home or into your backyard and intruding in your privacy. But if they could walk around the corner and pick up a pizza, or if they could go get their hair done, or find a service, driving school, whatever it is, the animal store that's there, or the spazies, right? So, not to give publicity to one particular business, but
Well, there's always trade-offs, right? And then
there has to be.
so and then your point about densification, we need more housing, right, to grow.
Yeah.
We need more residents,
Yep.
right? So how do we do that in a responsible way, given the constraints that Beaconsfield has that other municipalities don't have?
Well, I think if we're in touch with our citizens and residents, and we handle them not with the kid gloves that were done, but with a better base of transparency, which is something that's been lacking for a long time now. I think we could get them on board easier than the resistance that's always being met now. Now, that being said, for growth, for densification, there's other issues. There's infrastructure. There's the maintenance of our current infrastructure. There's the growth of it. Any big project is going to need better water supply, better water evacuation, water management, which is a huge thing for this area right now.
Yeah, given the recent climate change issues and the floods that are happening, it's been, it's basically our infrastructure needs to be improved.
But we're our own worst enemy, because just the maintenance, even if we didn't have that, we're still not up to par for what our needs are, right? So we have, our water supply is split up on, if you want to water, if you have a sprinkler system on south side, north side, there's all these different rules. There were sections closer to where you guys live that had about a year and a half of rusty water and discoloration, and that have finally been dealt with. And I don't even know if it's 100% cleaned up, for you guys yet, right? I do believe it's significantly better.
Definitely.
So we got to look at the overall situation. We've got to find ways that we can expand and build and go from those 18 and 24-inch pipes to those 60-inch pipes that we need for both not only sewage, but water management, flooding, and our sewer system, and which would then allow the densification. And somehow I get the idea that because these were such big jobs that needed to be done, that the last administration didn't really want to do it because it would have been a negative light at the end of what would have otherwise been, or thought to be, a great legacy for the city of Beaconsfield. And in many ways it was, but we need to do it, because even if we didn't have the flooding issues, if we don't maintain it, if we don't grow it, that's just water. We haven't talked about the electrical poles. In certain areas, they have to go underground. The tracks, they're falling, they're collapsing. Some people have brought up the sound wall, which would have been a wonderful way of hiding wires, but that's long gone, it seems, that 8 years later, and $75 million lost from the other governments. we can do better in the way we approach these big projects. We just have to be clear and concise and very transparent. And then you have to add a little bit of tenderness to the way you discuss it with the citizens. It just is. It's about time.
So, what are some ideas on how to manage the city's finances, or better yet, to find new revenue streams outside of the residential tax base? Do you have any ideas around that?
Well, yeah. Listen, for the last, I've sat on different boards over the last 20 years, all in the nonprofit world. And the one thing I've done very well is find traditional and non-traditional revenue sources and streams for these entities. It is something that is feasible within our market. We don't have to consistently raise taxes just to pay for maintenance. We don't have to raise taxes to pay for things that we need to expand. I mean, we don't need to do this year after year after year, throwing this incredible burden on our citizens. It's insane, the level. Everything is expensive right now. Everything from food to cars to gas to school. Um, it's just a lot. And for families that are young and first-time homeowners, in many cases, they're tapped out because they're trying to do the right thing by their families, right? So they maintain the house, have the food, give their children proper education, get to work, not have to worry about these things. And then, the next tax year, their roll goes up a couple of bills. And I know I've suffered that. My house was renovated back in 2003 through 2005. I've done no major renovations to it, but the exponential tax roll on it has quadrupled, to minimize that footprint.
Well, this is the issue that's across the country, right? Which is the lack of supply, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's been driving the price increase. It comes down to supply and demand. If there's more demand than supply, prices are going to go up. So that's what the question coming down from, provincial, federal governments down to municipalities is: we need to build more houses. How do we do that in a way that's sustainable, that protects the character of Beaconsfield, which is,
Well,
it's a, sleepy bedroom community with nice yards. And so as soon as you hear the word densification, people think, oh my God, we're
high
going
rise.
high rises and condo buildings everywhere. We don't want that in our city. So what are some ways that you can, achieve the goal of having more housing, getting more people living in Beaconsfield, to appeal to the senior downsizer, empty nester? I'm going to be an empty nester in the next 5 to 10 years, probably. So, and then there's seniors who are living in their big homes who would love to stay in Beaconsfield, but where do I go? Right. And where are the options available to? There's Villa Beaurepaire that has a great community there, but there's limited space there. So curious to hear how
Well,
we go about doing this.
I, I I think, considering what you do apart from this, you have a wonderful optic of what actually happens at ground level.
Yeah.
I can't think of what we've done in Beaconsfield hasn't been growth. It's been upgrading of existing properties. We really haven't had a major development here. We haven't densified the way that we were intended to throughout these last 3 terms. Um, we've just renovated. And while that is important, and while these new people that are coming in with money, or the existing ones that have spent the money, on their largest asset, um, we didn't diversify. I think maybe there's 3 new houses. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what the actual hard number is, but I can't see, I see one go down and I see another one being built with larger footprint and less green space. And while there are rules there, there are always exceptions being made, and that leads to the water management thing, but that's a whole other sidebar. Um, we need some projects, and we have very few spaces. So we have the Elm Plaza. I know what that was. And we have the The one over here at Lakeview and Beaconsfield Boulevard, we have a huge empty space that is somewhat protected at the end of Elm on the west side. That, in my opinion, would be better used the way it is, or for water management.
Was that near the dog park?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just on the other side of Angel Woods.
Okay.
Yeah, what used to be the school that was down there.
Yeah.
So, and that's a zoning issue, and I don't think it would be right to necessarily use that land just to develop and put in some monster townhouse condo project. But I don't see growth. So we have to find some spaces that does it. We do have to do it with the character of this sleepy bedroom town, as you rightly call it. It's important that we maintain that character. It's the charm that brings people here and keeps them here for decades, and families and generations of families over and over, like yours. If I had children, hopefully like mine, and but it's important. I love when I walk down the street now and just, to see all the kids. Suddenly there's kids again. There was a 10-15 year period where it was our seniors and they were living and thriving, but there was no laughter on the streets. There was no kids on bikes. So we're there, and we have to provide things for them while we accept new people in. And how do we do that? Right? Because it's not all going to be monster homes and big renovations and tear downs. It needs to be something a little bit more attainable. So maybe there does need to be a townhouse project. Maybe there does need to, but it needs to be moderate. It can't be, 8 floors. It can't be, in terms of a condo building or a skyrise. I like what Point Claire did with the old Pioneer. 3 floors.
Yeah, my mom lives in that building. She loves it.
Right.
It's fantastic. That's what I'm saying is, you got seniors who would love to stay in the West Island, stay in Beaconsfield.
A manageable co-op association or condo association that isn't made up of 120 units and of differing opinions.
Yeah.
Small, close to everything. It'd be wonderful to have that here.
Yeah.
Right.
Trouble is then you've got affordability issues where, again, we see that's, some seniors on fixed incomes, if they sold their house, sometimes with condo fees, they're trading 4 quarters for $1, and they're afraid of the
Or
unknown.
they're trading 4 quarters for $3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because these days the condo fees are, and
Yeah.
special assessments are a thing. And so you're absolutely correct, but that building is a wonderful model of what a town like this could do. It fits within the character. It's not overbearing. Yes, during the construction, it might have been a little much for some of the residents and some of the businesses. But at the end of the day, I think when they got through it, everybody thrived as a result of it. There's 4 new businesses now, as opposed to the one that was there.
And so this whole mixed use strategy, right?
I love it.
Of having commercial on the ground floor
I love it.
and then residential up above, but not going too high. Is that what you would envision for, let's say, an Elm Plaza project?
An Elm Plaza project where the Casarita is, I think it would be, the size of the Casarita project, just to pick on that for half a second, I was overbearing. It's a lot of units. The family that wanted to do it, they're wonderful people. They're kind, and with all the right intention. And what they were met with was provisional acceptance of their project on condition that we lose 4 commercial spaces. They weren't allowed to maintain the pizza parlor. They weren't allowed to maintain the pastry shop. And in between those 2 are 2 other units. It could be 1, it could be 3, right? They could be small, 400, 500, 600 square foot businesses. And that seems counterintuitive, because here again, we're just tapping into our homeowners' tax roll, and we're not diversifying that income. And there's so many ways that we can do it. I go every day with my dog to the dog park, and I've got to say, 98% of the people there are kind, loving people, and their dogs are okay. Or listen, dogs to me are fantastic, and the dogs are okay. And I'm scared with my little puppy sometimes because he's a puppy. But they're from Dorval, they're from Point Claire, they're from Dollard. We could do a small little fee for out of town, give them a tag and just a proof of vaccination for their animal, kind of make them earn it, but at least for 40, 50, 60 bucks for a year, they can have unlimited use of our space. And that could pay for itself.
Right.
Like, we're not thinking outside the box. And that gets me back to your initial question, which was, how do we diversify and bring in, untraditional revenue streams? We got to, for the rec center. Why don't we have major, not sponsors or branding like they did in Westmont, like they did in NDG? The Molson family spent a lot of money for that arena in Westmount.
Yeah.
And all they got was a name. They got no special priority, but it's a state-of-the-art facility. It was fundraised from all the locals with very little city money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We can do this. We have the people. And we
got
the skill sets of the people.
And the Centennial Project is probably one that we're going to look to that's going to really benefit the citizens, right? And creating a community center, new library, that type of thing. So
I'm all for it. I just don't like.
Are there ways we can generate?
I don't like the way that the way it's been. The transparency on it has been less than perfect. And the financial report, on the cost is all based on tender. It's not actuality. It's kind of like the baseline of what we're willing to spend. And that is not a good operating procedure for something that big. We need harder numbers, real numbers. And you know this through your work. There isn't a project that ever meets its target budget. So if we're already starting in a gray zone before we've even, we've broken ground by knocking down, but we haven't broken down in terms of the reconstruction. We're already over budget essentially before we've even put a shovel into the ground. And it could generate a loss that the city has never felt before on its biggest legacy project. We need to look at how we're gaining money for that project.
So there's definitely some big projects in the works, right? Over the next 5 to 10 years. There's the Centennial project with the new cultural center.
Yep.
There's the rehabilitation, renovation of the whole rec center.
Yep.
That's been approved and planned for the next foreseeable future. So there, I guess what your point is, where are there government? Are we
really
maximizing and tapping into the amount of government funds available, grants?
I think are there
other streams of revenue that we could be pursuing?
There are absolutely. We have a lot of people that live in this community that are really good at this, that I've worked with in other areas, from fundraising to, when we moved the West Island Cancer Wellness Center out of Beaurepaire, that's a really perfect example of what happened. This was a wonderful facility for cancer patients. It was in our backyard. They had simply asked the city for a little help to renovate that building, and it was completely refused. And Kirkland came in and not only offered tax incentive, over a 10-year period, they found the land. They decontaminated the land because there was a gas station previously at that corner. They did all the upfront work to make it a space that then we could go out and find money to build that facility. And there was much smarter minds than me that were at play in that group. But as a board member at the time, what a wonderful place to have, and the footprint it leaves throughout the whole West Island. For those and beyond, because quite honestly, that cancer center has patients coming in from Hawkesbury, for little, weekly visits with either a psychosocial nurse or whatever it is. Their footprint is well beyond the West Island, and that was in our backyard, and we lost it because we refused as a city or as an administration to do the right thing by it. And we could have found them space. And we could have made it work, and we just didn't. And I think that type of attitude needs to stop effective immediately.
So this is interesting. Your experience with nonprofits as a collaborator, as a connector, and being able to bring people together for a common cause and vision. How would you leverage that as mayor of Beaconsfield and
Well,
put that forward?
in many ways, what I just described, we are in many ways, a dream community for people outside of the West Island. And when you talk, listen, I have friends in West Mountain. When they may always make the joke, "Do I need a passport to come visit you?" Right? It's not that far in all reality.
Yeah.
But when they come here, when they are here, and they're having dinner, or they're in the yard, or the quality of life that they experience in those few hours that they're in our homes is really amazing. So one of the things that we have to do is kind of use that leverage on a bigger scale. And that's where the fundraising comes in, where we need to use my skill set and the skill set of some of the other wonderful fundraisers in our community to build these projects, to help finance these projects. There's people that manage large portfolios that have wonderful clients that are looking for investment. Why aren't we doing it? We've never done it? Now, the only real difference between nonprofit and municipal outside of the governance is obviously laws, right? It's a series of laws and the way we serve people. What I do, when I bought beds for the emergency department at the Children's Hospital is very much like when we need to do something within our community, but there's a different standard. There's the, benefit of value and a donation. There's that kind of thing. And that, while it's different and the ratios are different, are very much what would become if we, had a large donor help pay for the rec center. What they're allowed to declare as a tax write-off as a result of their donation, if it's coming from a family foundation or a trust or an endowment versus a large corporate donation. So we got to weigh that out, and we have to have some oversight. We have to have clear transparency.
Well, that's an interesting point, though. Transparency and communication has been a key topic of this election among all the candidates. So I'm curious as to what's your take on how would you improve communication and transparency?
I'm a big fan. Like, you ever fight with your wife?
No.
No, right? You're wrong
Mm.
in an instant, but you're going to die on that hill trying to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And the longer you wait to just apologize, the quieter it gets, the more, the sullen the situation is. I'm a big fan. I do something wrong, I take personal responsibility, and I own it fast. I don't like that uncomfortable situation. I hate it. I hate it with my friends. I hate it with my family. If there's something we got to deal with, let's talk it out. And I think that transparency in my life really has resonated in my work. And it's the same thing with our citizens. We need to make things clear and open and available for them in ways that are both strategic for them, and in some cases, there will be redactions, and then protective of intellectual property and information that might only be at a government level.
Yep.
But what we had was none. And in many cases, we'd have like a summary at council. Oh yeah, the meeting, the committee meeting on safety was great. Okay, first, second, approved.
Yeah, or a contract has been approved for an X amount for this particular issue. Somebody, seconds the motion, they vote on it, it's passed, but then we don't know what was.
We have no concept.
Yeah.
I want transparency, and it's to a point of fault. I think it's important. I think that when people lean on their municipal government, the beauty of municipal is that we're grassroots. We shop with each other. We live with each other. We dine with each other. But we should also govern with each other. We shouldn't make it so that it's available to them in short order. It doesn't have to be the next day. It doesn't, a lot of people are taped into council meetings, online, so they can see it. It's on, it's on demand on the website. But the fundamentals of what we're talking about or will be talking about have not been made, and we need to change that. Now, there's a methodology to that is undefined. We'd have to come up with it. We'd have to maybe even put it to a vote at council to see if people are okay with those terms.
Yeah.
But for me, absolutely, without question. And, I shouldn't even, let me not mansplain it. Yes, 100% full transparency on every aspect of everything we do, with the exception of certain, legal obligations for the city.
Legal and privacy issues, they can be redacted from the summaries, but again, we can provide a high-level summary that gives the background of how a decision was made and the two sides of the debate.
Or even make the committee meetings available. Maybe that's something that should be going online. So when maybe not the lead ups and all the little small meetings that are going into it, but the overall committee meeting when people come out and the minutes are made available to people. I think that's important. You see it in every other municipality. You see it in nonprofit. I do it, with my little nonprofit, and it's what we do. I don't owe anybody anything because I don't give priority money. I find donors to donate to the charity that I'm associated with. I don't have a board. I have me and I have people that volunteer with me, and we kind of do things collectively. But if any one of those 4 people have questions,
Open book.
open book. It has to be.
So if you were to be elected mayor,
Yeah.
what would be your top priorities? Because there's so many things that could be done. There's obviously a limited budget, as you mentioned. What would you say would be the top of your list of things that you'd want to tackle?
Safety and accessibility and a puppy. Safety and accessibility is a big one for me. That we have a lot of vehicles coming through the area. We have a lot of modern transport with, electric scooters, electric bicycles that seem to have an exception within.
Yeah, those things go fast.
Fast. They go very fast, and apparently they don't, follow rules. And I love cycling and I like running and I like being outside. I'm a very outdoorsy kind of guy, but there is a limit to how we just allow people to, swing through. I'm glad, one of my competitors for this position was on a committee that helped put a couple of speed bumps on the major artery right here. It's a wonderful thing. Hasn't slowed people down though. Right? You just see cars hitting them really
Flying
fast.
over like Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, they do. Literally they do. So, maybe some better signage at the speed bump, or a flashing light. There's so much good technology for stop signs, for flashing lights, for crosswalks. There are sections of Lakeshore that need better attention, where cyclists are yelling at you for walking in the pedestrian walkway because they think that's where they're supposed to be cycling. There's no crosswalk out of Christmas Park onto the walkway for the kids that go back to the school. And back to the technology thing, there's, we can have light up type of stop signs, not at every corner, but major intersections or crosswalks in school zones where when a headlight hits it, it just kind of illuminates, it flashes, right? So then it draws the attention to the crosswalk. Point Claire does a wonderful thing with their crosswalks. It's a large fine. It's like $300-400 if you go through that crosswalk with someone wanting to cross, whether there's an indicator or not.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like I was in Halifax a couple weeks ago, and it's like in Halifax, when you step off the sidewalk, traffic comes to a halt, no matter where, even if you're not at a crosswalk.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And then at the crosswalks, they've got the sound. They've got the beeps when you're able to walk. So
for
people who are
accessible,
make it accessible for
other
visually impaired
or hearing impaired. We don't have that. I'll give you an example. On Saturday, I was, at the corner of my street, there was a stop sign that someone had stolen. And it's probably in some kid's door, to keep his parents out, right? Like to stop, like this, the door's closed. This is my sign. Just, whatever he's done. We've all, I have never stolen a stop sign, just to be clear. But it's one of those um, youthful crimes that was done. But it's on Thanksgiving Saturday on Lakeshore, and no one is stopping, and all the kids are playing. All the families are walking. It was a beautiful day. And I'm just trying to walk the dog. But, and I'm talking, obviously, we're in campaign season, and I'm talking to people, and we're all just going, why are none of the cars? And none of us had realized the stop sign was missing until one guy was zooming through. And then we see a screw, and then I look and there's no stop sign. So now suddenly I'm spending 2.5 hours waiting for public security to go wrangle a stop sign, municipal works to come and put it on a Saturday, which they did within 3 hours, 3.5 hours. They came in, they put up the sign. But one person, well, I was just kind of waving to slow down, like, because there's people crossing. And he just, he whips through. I've never seen it before. Tells me to go, it's exactly, and then throws up the bird and just full speed through the intersection, and we need to control that. We need to make things safe. We need to, we talked about infrastructure earlier. That is key. We got to look at it. We have to have a plan within the first few months. We have to an environmental plan as well. Not that, I'm not one that's going to say, the grass is not a natural product for this environment. We need to maintain the beauty of this city. But we could, maybe, have people grow more wildflowers, whatever it might be. The maintenance of our properties is key. But it doesn't have to be all cookie cutter.
Okay.
Our shoreline, our flood zones, the lawsuits.
Yeah, what's your take on the lawsuit with the
Agglomeration? Big word. Listen, it's a just lawsuit. It was well-meaning when it was put into place. And we're not alone, right? We're one of 10 demerged cities. It's important to either win, but we went from 15 to 20 some odd $million. And the longer it takes, the larger that number comes, the more impossible it is to win. Because even the city of Montreal has limits on the amount that they could disperse in this, right? I think it's time for fresh eyes. I've said this before, fresh eyes, a calmer attitude, a more constructive tone, and to find a settlement collectively for everybody involved. And I know some of the other municipalities, and I've spoken to, some of the past mayors and still existing mayors. I think everybody's on board. It's an expense that is just, but doesn't make sense anymore. We need to find a solution.
Okay.
Listen, in worst case scenario, we're in exactly the same place, but how does it hurt for a new set of mayors and a new set of staff to go and try to do something in a way that is absolutely less aggressive, less detrimental to the cause that we're trying to achieve?
Got it. So you're in agreement with the lawsuit and the fight that Beaconsfield is in, the principle. You would instruct the law firm representing Beaconsfield to try and come up with
the multiple law firms that represent Beaconsfield in all the lawsuits. This is our biggest one, right? And it affects us in ways as taxpayers that are undescribable. It's the main reason why our tax roll has gone up year after year after year. But, to get back to the growth thing, but we still need to grow, and we still need to do things. And again, we can't do this punitively against our residents. And the other thing that we've done is we've sued a lot of people that live in Beaconsfield. A lot of lawsuits. Thousands of lawsuits over 12 years, from defamation cases because you said something that wasn't kind about someone on Facebook. And I get it. It's online, social media can be very toxic. But you put yourself out there and someone doesn't like you, or they imply some kind of impropriety, it doesn't make it true. And it doesn't carry real weight, because within a few minutes, or ours, they've already moved on to something else. And to then sue those people serves no purpose. And we spend a lot of money on lawyers for those types of things. The other thing that we've been doing is suing or punishing people that have done the legal framework for the renovations on their properties. And,
Another hot button
right?
topic among
But
many
it's a
residents.
real thing.
Yeah.
Around the corner from you, a wonderful family living, on Church Street, did everything right, followed all the rules, architectural renderings, permits paid, the process all documented, everything followed. They got the permit and posted the permit, they did the work, and within a few short days, if not weeks, I don't remember the exact timeline, they're being told to tear it all down, even though exactly what they built was approved and permitted. And then they spend 2 years going through court processes just to meet the lawyers in court in front of a judge, and the lawyers for the city don't have any of the proper information in the file, nor did they even check that. And they have a stack of files. They know they're doing, 50 cases that morning against citizens of Beaconsfield. So they just kind of go through it, and as they, it's ad hoc law. And it's not, and I'm not slamming the lawyers. I mean, but we're spending a lot of resources on that. And we're really creating bad faith and turning people away from the beauty of our community who have just followed the rules that we have set into place. And I want to see that stop. I want to see every lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer. But I'd like to see every lawsuit and to see what's worth continuing and what's not. And so the agglomeration is one worth continuing, but maybe with a different process. And then some of these other ones, if they have a permit, we did it, and we, as a city, we allowed it. Maybe we shouldn't revert our decision. Maybe we just have to accept it. Because there are such bigger issues. We're allowing houses that don't conform. Some of these new builds are not necessarily the, that sleepy bedroom town, right? They're modern, industrial looking.
So maybe that's a bit of the confusion out there, is there's no clear guidelines. There's a bit of, there's normative guidelines that you have to adhere to, city bylaws, and then there's subjective criteria about the architectural style and design of the home. And I think that's where there's a bit of frustration among many residents who have got plans to either extend or renovate or build, and they're running into sort of
problems.
I just don't know what to expect, right? And I'm going in there spending a lot of money, but there's no clear guidelines of what I can and cannot do.
Well, there are, and there are some. The guidelines are there. What's really the problem is that people are following those guidelines and then being met with either animosity, disdain, confusion, or just a flat, simple refusal. And then the ones that are accepted, after they've done their due diligence, they've met the criteria, I don't know what the ratio is, but not all of them get to keep what they just spent a lot of money on. And even worse, in some cases where the city says, well, if you don't get rid of it, I know you have a permit, but if you don't get rid of the ditch that we allowed you to fill in, we're going to come here while you're at the office and we're going to rip it out, and then we're going to bill you. So is it a revenue stream? Is it bullying? I don't know what the motivation for it is, but if we've allowed them to do it, if it was done with all the criteria being met, maybe we just have to absorb it. And maybe we just have to allow these people to create a wonderful space for their young families in their first homes, and enjoy that neighborhood, right? As opposed to always having that taste in their mouth for, I'd like to do new windows, but, the city is going to make it really difficult.
Right.
And maybe even skirting some of the rules just to try and get by, and then creating more animosity, right? We don't need that. We need to, it needs to be more inclusive. We need to really be in touch with our residents and allow them to do the things that they need to do within those set guidelines. And we're not.
So it's more communication, transparency, collaboration, working with residents to promote growth and smart densification within the confines of our city and the limited space
State.
that we have available.
Yeah. And commercial growth.
And commercial growth.
Important. We need that revenue. We need businesses to come here. We have about 150 spaces that we could put, existing spaces for commercial, and I think we have 38 filled.
Frank, this has been a really interesting conversation. I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Let's let our listeners and our viewers know how they can get in touch with you, where they can go to learn more about your platform.
Well, and just to be quick about it, I didn't create a manufactured or a curated Frank Merhar for mayor Facebook page. I have my existing page. It is 13 years of my life and my work, and I would love for them to join and come and ask me questions there. I don't want to create something. That's the real me. There's a lot of people that have followed me for that whole time. And whether they engage or they observe or, like social media stalkers, whatever it is, it doesn't matter because that's the real person. It's not a curated form for, 75 of my closest friends and family that are supporting me. So they can reach me there on Facebook, Frank Merhar. There's an Instagram, apparently my LinkedIn has been very busy lately, even though I'm not a big fan of it. I guess I got to do better with that. And truly, I have on my campaign posters, and I can make it available. And I think you have that information. I have a phone number, and you can call me. You can text me. I've been answering and email. I answer them all myself.
We'll put them all in the show notes, and wish you the very best of luck
Thank you
in the upcoming campaign. And thank you for being involved in this community and for promoting, honest and transparent dialogue among our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was our conversation with Beaconsfield mayoral candidate Frank Merhar. Whether or not you agree with every idea, what's clear is that our community is stronger when residents and leaders talk openly about the issues that matter most: growth, transparency, and how we shape the next chapter of our city together. Election Day is Sunday, November 2nd, so make sure your voice is heard. Thanks for listening to the Broady Windsor Group podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a neighbor and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.